It's negotiation time for your accident case. And my clients often ask me, hey, what are we asking for? We're going to talk about how that's not a simple question on this week's Monday Morning Lawyer. Good morning, everybody. It's your accident and injury lawyer, Jobeth Bowers, coming at you from my Elkton office. Today, we're talking about a very obscure topic. It's not obscure. It's just not a straightforward answer, but it's a question that I receive all the time. So to give you a little bit of background before I answer this question, when we represent folks, it's for their injuries, for their auto accident cases. We're not generally handling anything outside of the injury portion of an auto accident claim. So we're not talking about damage to the vehicle. We're not talking about repairs, total losses, or anything like that today. We are talking about the injury portion of the claim. We've talked about this in previous episodes, how there are a bunch of different things that go into the value of these cases, medical bills and the care that you receive and time you miss from work and how it impacts your daily life and permanent issues and scarring and all of this stuff that go into it. So the question is, and I get this all the time, there comes a point in time in these cases in which we've collected all of the documentation that feeds into evaluating the overall value of this claim. We've sent it out to an insurance company. At the same time, this is something that my clients are already going to know. So if you're a client watching this, you've already seen this, or you're going to when it gets to that point in your case. We send out a copy and an itemization of all of the medical treatment to our clients to review and double check. In our office, that's just a way to make sure that, hey, we got it all. We've had many, many conversations with our clients throughout the course of representation, but it's just that last double check that, hey, I want to make sure nothing slips through the cracks, because if we negotiate a settlement on your behalf and then there's a bill that isn't part of it, it's not going to get paid, not by the accident settlement. And we want to make sure that we're not selling our clients short, even for $1. It doesn't matter. It's our clients' money, and it's our job to advocate for them. So with that, and sometimes there's confusion when our clients see this list of the medical records and bills and the total of the bills and everything. Sometimes they think that's what we're asking for from the insurance company, and it's not. That's just an itemization of what it costs to get you back to where you are compared to where you were before this accident and immediately after this accident occurred. So what do we ask for? That's generally the next question. And the answer to that question is very, very difficult. Part of it is a negotiation strategy where we don't ask for a specific number unless it is a situation, really only when it's a situation in which we are asking the insurance company to offer our clients the entire limit of whatever their insurance policy is. Now, I'm not going to get into what determines that today. There have been previous episodes that have talked about it, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again in the future on another episode. But insurance policy limits are super important. Search through the YouTube channel if you have no idea what I'm talking about, because it's important stuff that you should know and be taking a look at with your own policy. So the only time we're asking for a specific amount is when we're asking for all the money. That doesn't come into play in every situation, because we settled plenty of these cases for folks that were not catastrophically injured, and their cases settle for $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 or some number around there, when the insurance limits are sometimes much higher. Just recently, we had a very, very happy client. We got a really, really great settlement for them for around $80,000. And the limits of the at-fault driver's insurance policy, $300,000. The 80 grand was a great settlement, but it would have been inappropriate to ask for the full limit of the policy there. So it also, because a lot of people ask, why don't you ask for all the money every time? Well, sometimes there's really great insurance and there's not catastrophic injury. So those two things don't line up. But ultimately, when it comes to putting a number on it, we don't. I can sit here and talk to you extensively about what I think would happen with a case when it goes to trial, but I'm not going to be the one to give the first number. I don't think that does a service for my client. I think it ends up being a situation where you're betting against yourself. And you shouldn't want to bet against yourself. It's a super important strategy. It's a super important tactic to avoid, because then you're kind of behind the eight ball. And I will tell you, one reason to do this is because every so often, and when I say every so often, I don't even mean 1% of the time. This happens maybe once a year, and my office in-house handles close to 300 of these accident cases every single year. Sometimes we get an initial offer that's much higher than I think that we would get if we took the case to trial and got a verdict. Again, very, very rare that I'm surprised. But sometimes if you were to ask me, hey, what number are you going to put on it? It would have been marginally higher than the initial offer that we received in those rare instances. Again, once a year, maybe this happens. If I were to put a number out there, I'm settling that case for 2/3 maybe of what I actually settled it for, if not less, because of course they're making an initial offer. They've got room to move. Nobody gives everything the first time through unless it's the limits of the policy. Another instance, because negotiation is not just what we're receiving from the at-fault insurance company for the other driver, we negotiate a lot of other things. For example, health insurance. When your health insurance pays out money, a lot of times they're entitled to be reimbursed. We negotiate what they're asking for at the end. We had one just the other week where we were looking for a reduction, did not ask for a specific amount. Somebody on the other end realized, and there's a lot more that goes into this that I'm going to reveal on the podcast, but they realized that, hey, or maybe they made a mistake, doesn't matter. We're going to waive this entire thing. This is tens of thousands of dollars that benefited our client because we didn't ask for a specific number. That's tens of thousands of dollars just directly going into our client's pocket. We cut a check the same day and said, get in here and get this while you can. It was great. It was wonderful. It happens like once in a blue moon, once in like 3 blue moons. Let's be real. But we're not here to squander those rare opportunities when it happens. So again, the negotiation process, it's a bit of an art. It is a very complex thing. It is not a straightforward, hey, let me take the amount of the medical bills, let me multiply it by some arbitrary number and say, this is what you should pay my client. The internet will have you believe that's how this works. It is not. It is absolutely not how it works. Some of this is relationship. Some of this is getting and dealing with adjusters that we've dealt with in the past. They know who we are. They know what we're capable of. They know that if I say it's X amount of dollars or we file suit, they've got a playbook on me. The same way I have a playbook on most of these insurance companies, they certainly have a playbook on my office. And they know that when I say, hey, it's this or we file a lawsuit, that they better give me that or we're actually going to file the lawsuit and we're going to push it forward. That's all I got for you today. It's trying to unravel something that is not particularly simple, but it might look that way from the outside. Bit of an art to it, but it's super important that you have somebody negotiating these things that actually knows what they're doing within that practice area. You can't just take a good negotiator who knows nothing about how these cases play out in court and go out there and try to negotiate one of these things. They might be able to do okay, but the reality of knowing what the path looks like and what the finish line looks like is incredibly impactful when it comes to resolving these cases in the best way possible for our clients. So that's all I have for this week. Hope everybody has a safe week, a wonderful week. We'll be back as usual next week, 10 a.m. with a new episode. We're working on something special for you that might help some homeowners out there to avoid some obligations that they might have. I don't know if it's going to happen next week or the following, but we've got something that's not directly law related that I'm working on that's more for the community and to make sure that you are aware of some stuff that you might end up getting some fines over, to make sure you can avoid that. And it's also a good safety thing. So that's all. I'm going to tease that for now. That's coming within the next couple of weeks. Be well. Again, as always, if you have a topic that you want us to cover here, boom, shoot us an email. Make sure you mention that you want it on the podcast. Otherwise, I might just respond or put you in touch with somebody that can help you out. Have a great week, everybody. Be well.